Thanks for joining me for class today. I'm Megan, and we're going to do a practice with a peak pose called Krounchasana, which is Heron Pose in English, Sanskrit to English. And it's a really fun pose. When you look at it, it looks pretty complicated because we have to be fairly flexible in both the fronts of our thighs, so our quadriceps muscles, and also in the hamstrings, which can be problematic for some people. But my goal here is to make Heron Pose accessible to you if you've never tried it before, if it's a new pose for you. So have some fun with it, enjoy opening your body and exploring your body in ways that maybe you haven't before. So I am going to have you start on the ground because we'll do a little bit of a hamstring stretch and an assessment that will help us to know just what we're working with today. You are going to want a strap and blocks if you have them. If you don't have blocks, then you want a blanket because we may end up using that to sit on. And this will be a more dynamic practice. So like I said, trying to make it accessible, but definitely more challenging if you're used to doing my videos. So come on down to the ground. Let yourself lay and rest. Hug your knees into your chest. Relax the low back for a moment. Find your breath. Always important. Listen to your breath for a moment. Then set your feet on the floor with the knees bent. Notice the position of your spine. And see if you could just deepen your breath. Think of the whole circumference of your torso, from the belly all the way up to the collarbones, and see what moves with your breath. Noticing even the backside, you can breathe into your backside. As the back presses into the ground, breath in. And feel yourself collapse into the earth as you breathe out. And then have your strap available. If it's not, go ahead and grab it. We're going to leave the right foot on the floor with the knee bent. And you're going to bring just the left leg into your body. Draw it in for a moment, stretch, keeping the right foot where it is. I want you to go ahead and use that strap. Even if you feel like you're fairly flexible, put it around the heel of the left foot, and then press that leg forward into full extension, so no bend in the knee. So you're going to go straight out first, and then use the strength of your arms and start to bring that leg up. So this is our first hamstring stretch, or maybe you're feeling it more in your calf. That could be. So we're just going to take that up a little bit. And you can let your left butt cheek lift up on this one. That's why we're keeping the right foot on the floor. And just go as deep as you can to where you're still breathing comfortably, but feel the back line of that leg all the way from the heel through the butt cheek, noticing what that feels like. So you may be somewhere further towards the front of the mat, but what I'd like to try to avoid is the big bend in the knee. So you're better off keeping the foot further forward and the leg straight than taking the leg way back here and putting a big bend in your knee for now. So we really want to get more into the hamstrings. Take about 5 more breaths here. Seeing what that feels like for you. Saying hello to the back of your leg, the length in the back of your leg. And then we'll release that. Just hug the left leg into your body. So that was checking the hamstrings. Now we're going to check the quadricep of the right leg. So you're going to keep the left leg hugged in as close as you can get it to your body. And if it's at the side, that's fine too. You can take the thigh to the side of the ribs. And then begin to extend the right leg. As you extend your right leg, see if you can keep the low back long on the floor, so not arching, and slowly extend that out. And push the back of the right knee into the ground, press the heel forward, and draw the top of the right foot towards your shin. So that leg is active. You're actively stretching, and you feel a little bit of something in the front of the right thigh, right in the front of the hip crease. And just see how that's going for you. We'll pause here again. Just feeling into the 2 sides of the body. Notice the difference in the 2 legs, where you're feeling the stretch. And at this point, if you want to roll your ankles around, sometimes just some happy ankle rolls. I use it for movement, but it's also a nice distraction. And then slide that right foot back, place the left foot on the ground. Just pause for about 3 breaths in between, back in this space of symmetry. And then we'll switch sides. Draw the right leg into your body, squeeze it in for a moment. When you're ready, grab your strap, put it around the heel, And then push your heel into the straps. So this is going to help to activate the muscles in the front of the thigh. We want to be active in the front as we stretch the back, lengthen the leg out, and then use the strength of your arms to start to bring that leg up as far as you can go without getting that deep knee bend. So not hyperextending the knee. We don't want to push the front of the knee or the back of the knee towards the front of the mat. Keep a soft bend, but start to reel in that leg, pushing the heel into the strap, and play with where you can go with that. Let that right hip, back of the hip, roll off the ground a little bit. Feel it all the way from the heel to the hip on the right side. Just exploring the back line of the right leg. Nice, easy breath, still breathing through the entire trunk of your body. Equal inhale and exhale if that's working for you. Last breath. And then we'll bend that right knee. Draw the right thigh into your body. You can hold the back of the thigh or the shin. Knee could be lined up with your shoulder. If it's more comfortable, take it out to the side more. And then begin to extend that left leg, but get active. As you press the left leg out long, push the heel away from the hip. Draw the top of the foot towards your shin. So you should feel a little engagement in the hamstrings and a stretch through the top of the thigh. So you want to feel the top of the thigh opening up, and the front of the hip crease there opening up for you. And just pausing, noticing what that feels like. Top of the left thigh opening. And you might still feel the stretch in the back of the right buttocks and hamstrings as well. It's a little assessment here for us. We're going to finish with a similar pose to this too. I like to sometimes begin and end just to see what changes these practices may create in our body. Last breath out. And then you can draw your left leg back, take your right foot down to the ground. We're going to do a couple of bridge poses. So arms to your sides with the palms facing up. Press the backs of the upper arms into the ground a little bit. Press your heels and the ball mounts of the feet into the ground. When you're ready on an inhalation, lift up. As you breathe out, come down. So as we lift up, you might feel a shortening of the hamstrings and a stretching in the tops of the thighs. And exhaling down. Think of really pressing into the feet. Hug your inner thighs. Lift the pelvis. Bring your belly button towards your heart. And then release all the way down. Inhaling up. And exhaling down. Last one. We're going to do 2 holds in this bridge pose. I'll give you a challenge if you'd like. Lifting up, first of all, if your arms are all the way underneath you, you can clasp your hands together, press your fingers into the ground, tuck the shoulders more under your upper back, under your wings. You can keep both feet on the floor. If you want more challenge, take the weight into the right leg on this one. Coming onto just the left toes, or lifting the left leg up. You can go straight towards the sky. There's that hamstring stretch. Bringing the toes towards your foot. Stretching out through the back of the left leg, right leg is strong, front of the right thigh opening up. Stabilizing yourself. Remember, you can also do this with the foot on the floor. If the leg is up at all, watch that you're keeping your pelvis balanced. We're not dropping the right hip. 2 more breaths. And then bend the knee. Take the left foot down, relax the arms to your sides. Slowly let the back and spine find its way back down. Take a round of breath. Notice if your heart is beating a little faster. And then we'll lift up for the second hold, pressing both feet into the ground. As you breathe in, press the upper arm bones down, lifting up to the space that you're comfortable with. Tuck the outer arm bones underneath the shoulder blades. You can clasp your hands, staying on both legs, or coming onto the ball of the right foot, or lifting that right leg up, heel towards the sky. Keep the pelvis balanced. Think of drawing the right toes towards your right ear or your head. Stretch through the back of the right thigh. Feel the hamstrings active in the back of the left thigh. So power on both legs, just different sides of the leg. Stretch on both legs, different sides of the leg. Last breath in. Release the foot down first. And then as you breathe out, release the back down. All right, we're going to draw the knees in and rock a little bit. Rock up and back. I like to inhale, come forward. Heart forward. Exhale, rock back. Starting to find a little core here. Rocking forward. We'll do one more, and on the next one, we're going to come to standing, so you could pause and stand, or you can come all the way up, hands free, up to you. So we're in our standing position. Take a moment at the top of the mat to widen your feet as wide as the mat. And then I'm going to turn towards you. We're going to widen our feet as wide as the mat, reach your arms up, going into a forward folding hamstring stretch through circling first. As you exhale, drop your hands to the right. If your knees want to bend a little bit, let them bend. Inhale, come up through the left. And exhaling, circling to the right. So you may be doing a big bend in your knees to start, and then press into the heels and lengthen as you come up. Or if you're more open through that back line, keep the legs a little bit straighter as you come around, moving from the torso. Let's do one more to the right. And then next time you're down there, pause. So feet are about as wide as the mat. You can keep that bend in the knees. Turn sideways. Maybe even bend in and out of the knees. If you want to use blocks underneath your hands, that can help to make the forward fold more accessible. And we want to take the shin bones forward and the thighs back. Imagine widening your sit bones. So you're going to feel a little more active in your legs. Pausing for a moment. Take the hands to the front of the shins, just below the knees, and inhale, come halfway out. So now you should be able to maybe get a little bit straighter with your legs. Press the backs of the knees towards the back of the mat. Bring the heart towards the front of the mat. Opening up the back line of both legs. As you exhale, drop down, bend the knees a little bit, and we'll make circles the other way. So you're going to inhale, coming up to the left, and exhale, down to the right. Start with that sweet bend in the knees. As you're coming down, lengthen the legs as you're coming up. And maybe each time you come down, the legs can stay a little bit straighter. Just circling around. Moving from the torso, feel your spine rotating a little bit. We're going to pause again in the fold. So as you exhale next time, down towards that right foot, find your center. Use the blocks if you'd like. And then think of widening your outer hips towards the long edges of the mat. Push those outer hips out. Take the thigh bones back. Lift the sit bones up. Get really long through the backs of the legs. Take a few breaths here, opening the back line of the legs. Blocks can be there if your hands aren't touching the ground. If you're up here somewhere, either hands can be at the shins, even in the fold, or use your blocks. We want the hands to connect with something. So we're not just dangling, we're active through the legs. Roll your inner thighs towards the back of the mat. Feel even a little more engagement. And then we'll come halfway up, hands to the shins. If they're not there, press the shins forward. Take the thigh bones back, reach out through the spine. Really long and solid through your legs. Exhale. Bow back down, press into your heels. Inhale, rise all the way up. Exhale, hands to the heart. We'll come to the front of the mat, and now you can take more of your natural mountain stance, so your feet might be underneath your hips instead of as wide as the mat. Hands at the heart center. Palms together, cross your thumbs. We'll do a little standing back bend. As you breathe in, reach up. As you breathe out, we're going to take the hands through the heart center and take that forward fold. So it might be a little bit deeper because our legs are closer together. And if you're not getting hands to the ground, you're going to use your blocks. Because we're going to take the weight into left foot, we're going to do a standing splits. Weight into left foot, lift your right leg up, point the toe, without lifting the hip up. So we don't want to rotate the hip out. We just want to lift the thigh up. So you're stretching the top of the right thigh and the back of the left thigh simultaneously. So you need something under your hands. We're going to take a few breaths here in the standing splits. If your hands are on the ground, that's fine. You can start to draw in towards that left leg. This is a good challenge pose. One more breath in the standing splits. And then we're going to let that right leg land in a crescent high lunge. Again, blocks could be underneath your hands. That's a nice modification to give you more length to your spine. Land in that high lunge and just let your knees bend, both knees. Drop your hips as you exhale. As you inhale, squeeze the inner thighs together and lift your pelvis up. As you exhale, drop, let the knees bend. Inhale, squeeze and lift. Feel that strength in the inner thighs. Exhale, drop down. So just little dips. Next time we drop down on exhalation, take that right knee all the way down. You can use your blocks, walk your blocks back, take your heart up, or if you'd like to reach your arms up, feel free to do that. Taking a few breaths in, our low lunge, Untitled, reaching up. Next breath out. We'll take the hands down. I always give options. If you want to rest more, you can go into child's pose, but because this is a more dynamic pose class, I'm going to lift my knee, step my left foot back, and come into down dog. Down dog is a great way to stretch out the hamstrings too. So start with your knees bent, get the spine long, so push the hands into the mat, lift your hips up, and then maybe just walk out your heels a little bit, bend your knees. Notice if there's a difference in the two sides of your legs, two sides of your body. And then we're going to bend the knees and crouch. So draw your shins parallel to the floor. Draw your heart back towards your thighs. Like you're trying to touch your heart to your knees. Crouch it, draw in through the navel center. Press those hands to the ground, stay strong there. Next inhalation, come forward into a plank pose. Exhale, come back into your down dog. Take another breath in down dog. We're going to come forward again for plank pose. As you're ready, inhale, flow forward. We're going to come down this time, so if you rather drop to knees, especially this first one, drop to your knees so the heart comes down first, elbows to your sides. Take your hands next to you, reach your toes back, and press into your hands, lifting up. So if our belly stays on the ground, we won't get as much stretch through the tops of the thighs, but you will get a nice back bend. Lifting up. Next exhalation, roll the toes under. Take it back into your down dog. We'll be coming to the front of the mat. You can lift your heels, bend your knees, look forward. You can always walk to the front of the mat, or if you want to jump, bend the knees. As you inhale, jump. Come halfway out. Sometimes it's fun to jump. Exhale, bow down. Get a little deeper into that leg line. Press into the heels. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale. Hands return to the heart. Nice and slow and deep today for the thighs. Back at the top of the mat. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Hands at the heart center. Cross your thumbs together. Nice little X with your thumbs. Inhale. Find the standing back bend. Lift up. So you might even feel here the stretch through the tops of the thighs. Letting the pelvis come slightly forward, but hug the inner thighs together. Create power in the legs. As you exhale, take the hands through the heart center and take your fold. You're going to find your blocks or hands to the ground if they're there. Transfer the weight into the right foot. Inhale your left foot up into standing split. So watch that you're not rotating the outer hip up towards the sky. Try your best to keep the hips squared off. So draw the front of the left hip towards the ground, but lift the left leg up. You might have a little bend in your right knee, but we want to watch that the knee can be bent, but we don't want all the weight to come forward of the ankle. So try to keep the hip back over your ankle, even if your knee is bent. As you lift up a little deeper, exhale, draw yourself into that right leg, lifting up through the left leg. Blocks might be underneath their hands. I have I have an easy time touching the ground, not so much because of my hamstrings, but because I have short legs and long arms. So proportions have a lot to do with how we use our props. It's not all about flexibility. And then we're going to step that left foot down, find that crescent lunge. You can use blocks underneath your hands for this one too. As you breathe out, bend both knees, let the pelvis come forward. Drop in. As you breathe in, squeeze the inner thighs, squeeze the front calf towards the back shin, lift up through the pelvis. Exhale, drop down. Inhale, squeeze, lift and lengthen. Exhale, drop. And inhale, squeeze, lift, and lengthen. This time we're going to drop and stay. Low lunge. So back foot, you can either roll the toe under, pressing the top of the foot or the bottom of the foot into the ground, or you can press the top of the foot into the ground. Hands could stay on blocks, walk those blocks back to your thigh, lifting up. So a nice stretch through the front of the left thigh. Hug your right calf towards the back of the mat, left thigh towards the front. Next breath out. Take the hands down, frame out your front foot, spread your fingers, roll the back toe under, lift up into your down dog. Unless you want to take a child's pose, we'll take a few breaths here. Maybe you're feeling more openness through the backs of both leg lines. We can hope. We'll do that crouching cat position. As you breathe out, draw your shins down towards the ground and your navel center towards your thighs. Make yourself really small. Squeeze in tight. Last breath out. Inhale, explode forward into your plank. Nice and long. Lift the fronts of the thighs. Lift the inner thighs. Exhale into your down dog. Coming forward one more time for plank. Inhale, float forward. We're going to come down, so option to drop to your knees. If you're not dropping to the knees, heart down first and come all the way down. So this last time we did the cobra pose, we want to see if we can get a little more stretch through the tops of the thighs. So take your hands underneath you, reach the big toes towards the back of the mat. See if you can roll all the way up and come onto your arms. Lift your thighs away from the floor, but we can't hang in our back. So you got to lift the back of the belt line up too, so your core is engaged. Feel the tops of the thighs open up. If this isn't working for you, previous modification, we're down here. Otherwise, we're lifting up. Press the tops of feet down. I'm sickling my feet a little. Make sure the whole top of the foot is on the ground. And then you can roll your toes under, child's pose or down dog. Coming to the front of the mat, look where you want to go. Bend your knees, step or jump. Halfway out as you breathe in. Exhale, breathe out. Inhale all the way up. Exhale. Hands to the heart center. Okay, we're going to do a couple of balance poses that'll also take us into some of the stretching we'll ultimately need for Heron Pose. So let's let the weight transfer into the left foot. Feel nice and stable. And if you're balance challenged, you can go to a wall and take a hand to the wall. Otherwise, we're going to lift up that right leg. Find your balance first. See if you can, before you grab your leg, use your muscles to squeeze that thigh in. Lift up through your standing leg, and then use your hands to take it in a little bit closer. So pause there for a moment. We're going to go into Udhita Pada Hasta Pada Gustasana. I can't even talk today. My Sanskrit. So all that means is we're going to put our hand on our foot. Hasta hand, pada foot. And however you can reach it. So we're going to do right hand to right foot. You can grab the little toe side. Some people like to use their peace fingers on their big toe. I like to be able to talk and still to keep my balance, so that's what I'm going to work on. So you can decide, and you can hold it right where it is, or see if you can start to go into even just a little bit of extension out in front of you. Push the heel towards the front of your mat, towards me. Push, push, push. You might even have to bend that left knee just a little bit, and then lift up through the left standing leg. Plug the left thigh bone in and back, into the hip, and reach out through that right leg. Give it a go. You can have a hand on the wall. Feel that nice deep stretch through the back of the right line of the leg. Strong through your left leg. We're going to go right into another balance pose. We're going to take that right leg behind us without using your hands. I'll turn. Squeeze the heel in towards your buttocks so you feel the hamstring shorten and the front of the thigh lengthen. And once you get it as close as you can, see if you can reach back there, grab the ankle. Now draw the heel in. Feel that stretch through the top of the thigh. That might be plenty for you, or if you want to take it a little bit deeper, flip your palm up, thumb back, so externally rotate your arm. See if you can grab the inner edge of the foot, the big toe side. If you got the big toe side of the foot, you can take that leg back like a dancer pose, stretch the thigh a little bit more. Wherever you can go, you can use your left hand to help balance. Have fun with it. Or left hand at the wall. You're just trying to get that stretch through the top of the right thigh. Back of the right thigh is active. You're pushing your foot into your hand if you're holding it. Even here, if we're doing this with one or two hands, push your foot into your hand. And then lift up through your standing leg. And then take it down. We'll give that standing leg a little break. Just transfer your weight back and forth for a moment. That was my better balance side. I'll see if I can talk and balance on the second side. So switching your awareness into your right foot. Feel your right foot. Keep your toes soft. That's where it starts, right? Your foundation is your foot. And then let that left leg come up. But don't grab it right away. Use your muscles to draw that left leg as close in as you can. Squeeze the thigh towards your ribs. I draw the top of the foot towards my shin, and I'm going to get it as high as I can with my muscular energy. Then the helping hands come in. Give it that little extra squeeze. Find your balance on your right leg or use the wall if you'd like. And then we get the hasta with the pada. Take your hand. You can grab the pinky toe side. Go for the peace fingers to the big toe. This right arm makes a great balancing arm, like a windmill going around usually. And see if it can start to extend. The one thing we watch as we go further into extension too, because I just felt in my left shoulders, the shoulder's going to want to come forward. You got to take this arm and plug it into your shoulder blade. So don't let that shoulder come forward. Plug in and draw back. Whoops, unless it knocks you over. Plug in, draw back, and then go for the extension. Press through the heel. Feel that nice long left leg in the back, but the front of the left thigh is engaging and you're lifting up through your standing leg. Something like that. And this one can do windmills. Taking a few breaths. Whoop, enjoy your balance. Or not. This is real, live yoga. And then we'll go to the back. So we're going to take that leg back. Do your best you can now, not using your hands again. Squeeze the foot like you're trying to kick yourself in your butt. Squeeze it in. Feel those hamstrings shorten and tighten. Your glutes are active. We want that activity first. And then take the helping hand back there. Maybe you can get a hold of the ankle. Push the ankle into the hand. Feel that nice stretch line through the front of the left thigh. Sometimes the left thigh is trying to go out to the side. Squeeze the inner thighs together a little bit. Keep the left knee underneath the hip. And then if you're going a little bit further into the dancer pose version, flip that left palm upward, so externally rotate the arm. Grab the sole of your foot with the thumb on the sole of the foot, the fingers on the top of the foot. Push the foot into the hand. Go deeper into the front of the left thigh. Right leg supporting you. Right hand helping you balance, perhaps. Last breath there. And then we'll let it come down. Relax for a moment, come back to the top of the mat. So these are all helping us open for the Krounchasana. Coming to the top of the mat, take your hands to heart center. Palms together, cross your thumbs. Inhale, sweep your arms up, standing back bend. Exhale, hands through the heart center. take that forward fold. Each time we come in, it's like retesting yourself. How's that back line opening up? Lift the hips. You can still use your blocks. We're active. You're taking your thigh bones back, shins forward. We're going to do that standing splits again. So use your blocks or hands to the ground. You need that extra balance. Weight into the left foot. Inhale the right leg. Reach it up as high as you can. Sometimes it helps to bend the left knee initially to get that right leg up there, juice up the right leg, and then take that left thigh bone and take it back. So instead of thinking of moving from my knee joint with the left leg, I think of moving from my thigh because I want to power up the thigh. Lifting up the right leg. This time, if you want to go a little deeper, if you're there, take the left hand to the back of the left calf and draw yourself in. A little more balance there too. All depends on your hamstrings today, your calf muscle. Drawing in. Hands back down to the ground. Step that right foot to the back. Pausing for a moment and then dropping to the right knee. We're going to go deeper into the thigh stretch on the right side. The first version, we stayed here, hands on the blocks or overhead. This time, if you got it, hug your thighs together a little more. You want to create stability, so left calf back, right thigh forward. Then, again, without using your hands, squeeze that right heel in towards your buttocks. So you're not going to be on your kneecap. You should have weight forward of the kneecap. But use your hamstrings and your glutes to lift the leg up. Then see if you can reach around, just like when we were standing. Grab that foot. And then push the ankle, or it might be the ankle, push the ankle into the hands. Pausing to breathe there and feel. And if you're not on the foot, that's quite all right. Drop that foot back down. Hands to the ground, roll the back toe under. Come into your down dog. Recenter yourself. Find the symmetry in your body. But notice if things feel different on the two sides. As you breathe out, crouch down. Drop the shins. Squeeze the belly towards the thighs, inner thighs together. Arms are strong. Inhale, shoot forward into a core plank. Take a breath in the core plank. Pressing through the heels, crown of the head forward. Slightly lifting shoulder blades. Exhale into down dog. Next breath in, shift forward again for plank pose. Breath out, coming down slow. If it's there, go right up. Press the tops of feet into the floor. See if you can push your hands, lift the thighs off the ground. But don't hang in the back. You got to lift the navel center up, or think of puffing up your kidneys a little bit. And if your arms are really short and you're just not getting off the ground, this pose can be done if you have blocks. Take your hands on blocks. It gives you a little more height, but you just have to make sure we're not hanging in the shoulder joints either. You got to push into the arms, lift the thighs away from the ground, push the tops of the feet into the ground. Exhale, your call. You can roll the toes under, come back into down dog, or take a child's pose. We have the other side to do. Anybody getting a little sweaty yet? We're going to come back to the front of the mat, so find your down dog first if you're not there. Bend your knees, look forward. As you inhale, step or jump. Coming halfway out, exhale into the fold. Getting easier and easier, hopefully, for that back line. Press into your heels. Inhaling all the way up. Lift your thigh bones as you lift your hands and your heart. Exhale, hands back to the heart. And pause. Second side. Hands are at the heart, cross the thumbs. Inhale, sweep the arms up through the front of the body. Take your gaze up. Let your thighs come slightly, so the thighs roll inward and come forward. There's this little internal rotation that happens that makes them stronger as you're stretching the tops of the thighs out. Reaching up. Exhale, hands through the heart center, taking the bow forward. And not just hanging. So we sometimes do one Or take opposite hand to the elbow and we dangle. This is not that. We want strong legs. So your hands are either pushing into the ground or into blocks to stabilize the upper back, and then you're lifting the thigh bones up and back. Or hands can be at your shins if you don't have blocks. Let the weight come into the right foot. Stabilize through the right leg and the arms. Inhale, that left leg float up, but keep the inner thigh lifting, the outer hip dropping. Pausing there. If you want to take it deeper, lift up through your right leg line. Watch that your hip isn't in front of the ankle. Press into that wrist. So keep weight in the right heel. That's one way you're able to do that. And then if you want, you can take the right hand like a crab claw to the back of your calf. Grab your calf. Lengthen the spine. Exhale, draw yourself in towards that right leg as the left leg lifts. And breathe. Both hands back down. Drop the left foot down. Pause for a moment, and then dropping the left knee down into your low lunge. Taking the previous modification, hands to blocks, holding here, hugging your thighs together for more stability. Hands can come to the leg or overhead, or this time we can take the left foot off the ground, squeeze the heel in towards the buttock. So feel that shortening through the back of the thigh. You should feel your hamstrings bulge and your glutes. Once it's active and you're off the kneecap, you're forward of the kneecap. See if one or both hands want to go back there. Grab that foot, push the foot into the hands. Draw your shoulders back. Feel spacious through the front of the left thigh. Last breath. Drop it down. Hands to the ground. Roll your toe under. Step into your down dog for a breath. Pause in the down dog. This time from the down dog, we'll do our left leg first. Take the weight into the right leg. Inhale your left leg up and let your hip open up. So if you want to bend your knee, bend it. Or you can keep the leg straight, but lift the left hip now. Stretch out the front of the thigh. Stretch out that whole left side. Square the hips off. As you exhale, you're going to bring the left leg forward. We're going to come right onto the left shin. So my knee is still pointing towards the front of the mat and in line with my hip. I want to keep my back right toe rolled under for now because I'm not collapsing through that back right leg. I want to keep it strong, press through the heel. And then slowly see if you can start to descend on the left top of the foot in the shin. It's not forcing yourself down, but you're staying strong through the right leg. Your right leg is your support. Make sure your knees aren't grumping at you. And then sitting down as deep as you can into that left thigh. So we can be still here. One of the things I like to do is just gently rock my hips. I take my hands a little wider, rock my hips from side to side. You get a good stretch through the back of the right thigh, and that leg is active because we're keeping the toes rolled under, lifting the thigh bone in, but also into that left hip and thigh and shin. And then if this one's not quite accessible, either a block can go underneath your right thigh, lots of support there, especially if it's getting tired, or anywhere where I use a block, you can substitute a folded blanket. So I'll show it with both this time, but just know if I say block, block could be blanket, and you can put that underneath that right thigh. And then we're going to come down. So now you can even let the top of the foot come to the ground. So you can come over that left leg. And this is a rest. As much as a child's pose can be a rest, make this a rest. A space to just relax the weight of the body, feel your bones. If your knees are screaming at you, especially that left knee, then you're coming out. Otherwise, just let the weight of the torso fall into the left leg. If you want a little more torso stretch, you can take your hands out in front of you. Head might even come to the ground. So it just depends on if you want that support underneath your right leg. I can remove it and get a little bit deeper into the top of my right thigh and into the hip crease, and it feels good. Otherwise, you got that blanket underneath there. Take 3 more rounds of breath there. And we're going to take this right into a seated twist. Just change things up a little bit. Use the strength of your arms to walk back up. And then once you're up, you're going to roll onto the left hip. I'm going to turn towards you in a moment. But you're going to take your right leg, swing it around for Ardha Matsyendrasana. So swinging your right leg around so it's to the outside of the left leg. If that doesn't happen comfortably, then the left leg gets extended and we swing the right leg around. So this is always an option for the twist, one way or the other. And then we're going to take the twist to the right. Finding that space. It might be best to just hook the left arm around, try to get the big toe side of the right foot into the ground. Stay tall through the spine. Walk your right hand in towards your sacrum. Feel as if you're broadening through the outer pelvis. Without pushing it down, let that right hip keep descending towards the ground. Let the crown of the head keep reaching up. Last breath out. And as you breathe in, bring it back. Hands to the ground in front of you. You can just untwist those legs however you need to. Come to all fours. Cat-cow. Inhale into your cow. Exhale into your cat. Very simple. But let your thighs move too. Inhale. Draw your hips back. Lift your tailbone. Exhale. Draw the tailbone down towards the ground. And feel that backs of the thighs shorten. Last round. And then rolling the toes under, come back into your down dog. Pause in the down dog. We'll do a half flow here if you'd like, or you can take your child's pose and rest in your child's pose. If we're doing the half flow, crouch your legs first. Squeeze in, draw in through your navel center. So this is your core work today. Hug your inner thighs, press through the heels. Even draw that pelvic floor muscles up. As you inhale, come forward. Plank pose, press through the heels, reach through the head. Plug your arm bones into the sides of the body. Exhale, lift back up into down dog. Inhale, shift forward again, plank. And exhale, we're dropping down. And if we can do that, thigh stretch, back bend, press the tops of feet down. Or sometimes too, you can do it on the toes. And that way, especially if you find you're collapsing through your pelvis too much, if you've got this like banana back, try keeping your toes rolled under, press through your heels, and lift your thighs, lift your belly. Think of cinching your 2 front hips towards one another. And the navel center to the pubis, lift up through that area. Let the heart come forward. Exhale, child's pose or down dog. All right. I'm going to do that sort of pigeon preppy pose with the right leg. Take the weight into the left foot. Inhale your right leg up, reach all the way up, stretch it out, and then lift the hip up with a bent leg or a straight leg. Lift that hip, stretch it out. Keep both arms strong, so watch that your elbows don't collapse. But you can look out under your right arm if you would like. Lifting up. Square the hips back off. Bring the right leg forward. You're going to come straight onto the top of the shin and the top of the foot. So we don't want the foot to sickle, meaning turning one way or the other. Keep the back left toe rolled under. And then slowly slide your heel back, your left heel, and take your butt cheek back towards your right heel, a little at a time. If you know you're just not comfortable there, then take that block, or blanket, put it underneath your left thigh for more support, but even then, still keep that back toe rolled under. If you want a little more of the swishy feeling, you can let your hips drop to the right and to the left. Notice how as you drop to the right, you feel a little more stretch in that left leg in different sides. So you can get right into the front of the groin area there. And then when we're ready to stop, you want to try to keep the hip and the knee aligned. So you're right on the top of the shin, top of the foot. Push the shin bone in the foot into the ground. So you're active right now. Press through the back of the left heel. And then let yourself slowly sit down. Once you're ready to sit down and rest, then we can let that top of the left foot come to the ground. Or it's supported with a block or a bolster underneath the left thigh. Think of decompressing the front of the right knee. Let the weight of the right thigh just press into the calf. We're not forcing it down. The blocks are also nice to support your head. You put it underneath your forehead. Notice that nice stretch of the top of the left thigh and the front of the right thigh. And this is one of my very favorite prep poses to do Krounchasana. This is going to be very similar to our final pose, which is next. Pausing to hold and feel let the weight of your body fall towards the earth. You might even breathe into your right lung. Notice if your right ribs are touching the thigh. If not, that's okay, but feel the movement between the thigh and the ribs. As we get ready to come up, use the support of your hands. Press into your hands. We're going to take our rotation. So once you're all the way up to where you feel you can comfortably dip onto that right hip, do that, tip over. If you want to extend your right leg, you know you'd rather do that in the twist, do so. Otherwise, swing that left leg around. So right leg extended or bent. If it's bent, the heels to the outside of the hip. Swing the left leg around, draw the shin bone in. Sit up tall at center. Shoulders over the hips, and on an exhalation, we rotate to the left. And there's all kinds of things that you'll see people do with the right arm. They'll take it to the outside of the calf. They'll take it to the knee and do here. Where does the rotation feel right for your spine? And then adjust your arms to hold you in that space. So I don't necessarily use my arms to push me somewhere where my spine doesn't want to go. I like to use my spinal muscles to get where I need to go in the twist, and then my arm to hold me there versus the arm taking me too far where my spine doesn't need to go. But experiment for yourself. Keep letting the left hip drop towards the ground. Take a breath out. As you breathe in, turn back to the center. One last down dog, because that is a great way to stretch your hamstrings. So hands to the ground. It's no pretty way to come out of that, but let your knees come back. Come to all fours. This time roll the toes under. Lift right up. We're going to take about 10 breaths in the down dog, but I want you to really think about lengthening the legs. Spine first, so press into your hands. Lift your shoulder blades, but scoop your outer arm bones like you're rolling your armpits up into your arm sockets, your shoulder sockets. Lengthen through the spine, and then bend your knees, lift that tailbone a little bit higher. Press your outer hips towards the long edge of the mat, and you can even take a wider stance in your down dog if that's more comfortable. And then start to work the heels down to the ground. We don't have the touch, but as the heels go down, think the thigh bones are lifting up and back, but that tailbone staying tall and high. So the fulcrum of the pose is your tailbone, and you're just letting that leg line get nice and long. Again, you can experiment with how much space is between your toes. Sometimes we do a really narrow down dog, and you'll feel a little more in the inner thighs. But when I'm trying to get into the belly, the hamstrings, I like to widen my feet. So try that. See how it feels to widen your feet all the way to the edges of the mat. Turn the inner thighs towards the center of the mat a little bit, internal rotation. Hug the inner thighs, press the outer hips out. 2 more breaths. And then coming down, we'll come into Virasana, Hero Pose, because that's kind of a step to getting into Krounchasana. And if Hero Pose, here's how I usually know if you're going to want to prop for Krounchasana is, this is Hero Pose. I was in it in the beginning of class. Feels so much better now, by the way. If this is a struggle for you, then you can try doing it on sitting on a block or a folded blanket. And if you're folding your blanket, make it small enough, like this, that it fits between your thighs. So you can sit on one or the other. And that's going to be a pretty good indication of whether or not you're going to want the prop when we go into Krounchasana. Because we need to have that ability to let the fronts of the kneecaps open up a little bit, to let them decompress. So we're just sitting for a moment. And feel yourself rock side to side so you can feel your 2 sit bones. When we go into Krounchasana, we really want to keep those 2 sit bones grounded. What sometimes happens is one hip will lift way up. We want to do our best to keep the sit bones grounded. If the butt cheek lifts up a little bit, that's all good. But feel yourself letting the weight of the torso just fall into your pelvis, and then the weight of the pelvis into the thighs and the shins. All right. And then come forward. Come off of that block, and we're going to go the opposite way. You're going to take your legs out in front of you for our seated leg stretch. Feet out in front of you. Press through your heels. So we want active leg line just like when we were standing. Toes pointing up and kneecaps. And if in this pose you're already kind of falling towards your tailbone, then you can take this blanket and put it underneath you just on the edge of the buttocks to tilt your pelvis slightly forward. So I want those toes pointed up and that pelvis in neutral, not falling back. Reach your arms up. Keep reaching the arms. When you reach your fingers towards the top of the ceiling and come forward with the heart a little at a time. And you're going to notice the knees are going to want to bend. Your back's going to want to round. See if you can press the backs of the thighs into the ground, even if the knees are trying to bend. Push the backs of the kneecaps into the ground. Take the thumbs back, heart first without rounding. So this is going to make you stabilize your legs and your spine. Little bit of work here. And then keep the legs stable, but just let your upper body fall. Even if you're up here somewhere, if you're coming deeper into it, because we've done this practice and we've opened that back line, you can take your hands to your feet. If you've got a block, one of my favorite ways is I take the block to my heels, grab onto the block, and use the block not to pull myself down, but use the block to extend your spine. If you don't have the block, you can also, some people will just grab their own wrist here. But taking that deep forward fold. And pausing in the fold. Feel yourself breathe through your back line, all the way from the heels to the hips and the hips to the base of the skull. Two more rounds of breath. Stretching out that west side as you breathe out. Inhale, slowly lifting back up. Make sure your toes, your legs line are active, pressing the back thighs into the ground and coming up. All right. So that was an active forward fold. So now we're going to come into our peak pose. And we get to stay seated. That's the nice thing with this peak pose. We're going to stay down here. But how we get into it is really important because just like when we were doing standing poses and I said I want you to use your muscles to bring your leg in towards your body, we want to do that when we're seated. We don't want to use our hands to manipulate the leg. We want the leg muscles to bring the leg into position so that the joints are staying protected with the muscles. Because otherwise the arms will grab us and take our leg, maybe in places that the joints don't want to go. So we'll start with keeping the left leg long. You're going to squeeze the right leg in towards your body, and you can take your left hand to the ground so it's supporting you, and just kind of roll onto that left butt cheek. But this is really active. I'm using my hip flexors, drawing that in, and then I'm going to take this foot. Now I can guide it a little bit with my hand. I'm going to take this right leg, so it's like a half of that hero pose, half Virasana, so that the shin and the top of the foot are flat on the floor. If they're not, or if you were sitting on the block when we were in hero pose, you're going to take the block, and you're going to put it underneath your left hip. Or blanket. Remember, substitute block for blanket. So it just gives you a little more space, less compression in the knee. Probably need to move back a little bit. And we should be able, so the foot's not sickling, top of the foot to the floor. Press the top of the foot to the floor, so this will open up the top of the ankle as well. And we're sitting. We just want to be able to sit first. So block can stay there or not. Sometimes if you've got a bigger calf, I find it feels good to grab your calf muscle, go with that crab claw hand again, and roll your calf muscle out towards the outer edge of the mat. So making sure your knees aren't too grumpy. Pausing, and then if it feels good, we're going to take a forward fold again. Inhale, reach up. As you exhale, heart forward, so your active left toes are pointing up. Hug your inner thighs together. So we don't want this right leg way over to the side. You want to try to keep the knee in line with the hip. And a little forward at a time, reaching long through the spine, super active. And then at any time, hands can come down to the ground. Keep the left leg active. Let yourself come into the fold. Hands could stay on the ground. If you're going deeper, you could use the block again to the left foot, or just take your hands to your foot, or to practice the pose a little bit more, you can clasp your left wrist with your right hand. Your call. So this is basically the same feeling we're going for, but the difference is the left leg line is on the ground. So this is definitely a prep pose for our peak of crane pose. But if you'd like to experience the crane pose, then we're going to come up. Everything will stay the same, except that you're going to bend the left knee, so it's not staying the same. Left knee. And when we took our hand to big toe, so we have to go back in our brain, hand to big toe, same thing. You can use your peace fingers to your big toe or pinky toe side if that feels more stable. Grab on, push the foot into the hand, plug your arm bone in, and we extend this foot up. So because I have such gaggly arms, I have to grab my pinky toe side, and I want to bend my elbow and draw up and in. I can feel I'm tipping a little bit. Remember the part about trying to stay on your sit bones. So I can tell that I'm lifting myself up. I want to try to feel both sit bones on the ground as I do this, and keep that pelvis in a forward tilt slightly, or at least not way back, to the navel center and the heart forward. If you have those long gangly arms like I do, you could take both hands and cross to your wrist. It's actually a nice stretch for your upper back. And here we are. You can grab your wrist. And just like in the beginning when we did those first stretches, I'm using my hand or my wrist to push the foot into. So let's say this is not accessible at all. Somewhere in here I have a strap. And you want to go from this version to trying to lift that leg up. Then what we could do, make it more accessible, take the strap like we did in the beginning, put it around the heel, the very beginning of class when you're lying on the ground. It should be that easeful. Wink, not quite, but grab a hold of it, use the strap. We can start from here and then begin to extend with the strap. See how that feels. So you're better off giving yourself more strap length and getting that leg straight and not lifting it as high. So maybe this is what you got today, versus what I don't like to see so much is the knee bent and back here, because we want that action of the quadriceps. The thigh muscles are engaged, so you want to keep that straight leg. Draw your kneecap up the left thigh, and then take it up to whatever that is for you. Just options. There we go. Do you feel like a heron? And giving you time to play or be there. Find what works for you. Remember to press your right shin into the ground. Sometimes the knee starts to grump a little bit, but there shouldn't be pain right in the joint. Be aware of that. Stretch the top of the thigh. And when you're ready to come out, take that leg down. So we come out the same way we went in, which is using the strength of the right leg muscles. You can take your left hand to the ground, roll onto your left hip, squeeze. So I'm not using my hand. I'm going to squeeze that leg in. It's like a counter pose. I want to squeeze it in towards my body. I can use my hand to guide it. Take the foot back down, extend. Your knees probably saying, woohoo, let me be free. So shake it out a little bit. Say, thank you, knee. I was right on the edge of my mat, so that was kind of a funky feeling on my kneecap. Don't do that. And then we'll do the second side, but pause for a moment. See how you feel. So right hand can come to the ground. You're going to use the muscles in the left leg to draw that leg in. So squeeze your ribs towards your thigh and your thigh towards your ribs without collapsing through your back. Lift up tall. And then you can lean over onto that right hip a little bit or roll onto the right outer butt cheek. Set that leg down so you can guide it with your hand. Top of the shin, and sometimes one knee will go there and the other will not. So just like a runner's lunge. And if the knee's out to the side, draw the thigh bones in. Sometimes even if you don't want the block underneath your hip, and this is the time to do that, you're going to lift up, put that block underneath your right hip, right? Then even just picking yourself up for a second, squeeze your thighs together, press your right leg, and see if you can get a little more centered on your sit bones, because otherwise all the weight goes into left hip or right hip. Roll that left calf away if need be, roll it to the outside. And first, just, this is a big ankle stretch. Get used to that ankle stretch, the front of the shin. Just pausing here. This is a pose in itself, right? Each one of these poses builds up to the final pose, but they all count. And you can stay here as long as you'd like, or make sure the right leg line is active. Point the toes up and the kneecap. You can even roll that right thigh bone in a little bit. So internal rotation will help you to feel both sit bones more. Reach your arms up. Lift the heart. As you exhale, come forward from the heart, thumbs back. So I'm not rounding my back as I'm coming into it. All my muscles are active in the leg and the spine. Drawing in through the navel center. I'll go as far forward reaching as I can. And then keep the leg active, but maybe let my arms relax. Wherever that is for you. Hands can come to the ankle, to the foot. Use the block on the right foot. And think the work is in lengthening the spine or the crown of your head towards your toes and pressing the back of the right leg line into the floor, the front of the left shin, hugging your thighs together. The ease, that was a lot of work, right? The ease is simply letting your body fall towards the ground. And if you put that to your breath, I like to think inhalation is effort, so I'm going to hug my thighs, reach out, press the back of the right leg line down. Exhale. Empty the belly and let my torso fall towards my thigh. Effort and ease. Staying here as long as you'd like. And this is a great option, especially if you're having a hard time staying on both sit bones or if you're using the block underneath you, might be more comfortable. Otherwise, you can lift yourself up. Coming into the Krounchasana, hug the inner thighs together, bend your right knee, place the foot to the floor. If you knew that it was more accessible with the strap, you're going to put the strap on your heel. And then lift your heart, bring your pelvis, so tilt yourself to the front of the sit bones, hug the thighs. Try to get the leg extended when it's still low to the ground and not hyper-flexing the knee. Keep a soft bend in the knee, but push the heel into the strap so that leg is really active, just like it is in a standing forward fold. Then reel it in like a big fish. So that's option number one here. And plug your arm bones in. So take the shoulders back a little bit. Let your collarbone smile for you. And if that's easily accessible, and you've got longer arms or shorter legs like I do, then you can either start with just the right hand to the right big toe, those peace fingers, or pinky toe side, extend up, plug your arm in, And then you can take both hands there. And just like with the strap, I even like to try to get on the heel because I just have more feel. I can feel, there's a rhyme here somewhere. I can feel from my heel to my hip. If I push my heel into my hands, feel it all the way into the hip. As you empty the belly on exhalation, draw the thigh towards the belly and the ribs towards the thigh. Soften the shoulders. Left leg active too. Hugging the left inner thigh towards the mat, pressing the top of the shin and the foot slightly into the mat. Be pleased with wherever you got in this pose today. That's the key, because then you'll want to come back. You'll want to do it again. And especially if this is your first time trying this pose, congratulate yourself on trying something new and being willing to fail as well as succeeding. It's an important part of yoga. I always try to put a pose in my practice. We can come down slowly. Extend that right leg. Pose in my practice that I know I won't complete the full pose, that I'll quote unquote fail, which to me isn't fail, but it's good to do that, to know that you won't do the full pose. That's okay. Rock onto the right hip. Use the strength of your left leg. So I draw that, it feels good for the foot. Draw the top of the foot towards your shin. Draw your thigh towards you. Squeeze it in. Extend it out. Knee will say thank you. Shake it out for a moment. And then we're going to go back down onto our back to finish. And as I mentioned, we'll finish in a very similar way that we started. And it's kind of a way for you to test. How did you feel at the beginning and how do you feel now? Keep your strap handy. Come on down to your back. Rest your back and spine. Maybe hug your knees in. Do a nice little massage for your pelvis. Just all easy things. And then start with both feet on the ground just for a moment. The hips relax. Shoulder blades. Spine is long, even the low back. Take your left leg into your body and take the strap. Put it on your heel. Going back to the beginning stages. Extend that leg long and then start to take it up. So we don't want to hyperflex, but keep the leg long. See where you can go with that. So we did this in the very beginning, right? You're going to keep drawing it in as far as you can go. But now we're going to add a little bit. So you might want to back out just a little bit. So you want to find a balance between drawing the left leg towards your head, and we're going to extend the right leg out. Now you're going to benefit from the stretch to the top of the right thigh and the back of the left leg. But we're reclining so you can relax into it. Two ways to use the arms. You can extend your arms and let your arms be long and luscious like the strap. Or for maybe a more easeful approach to the arms, if you're extending, plug your arm bones in so your shoulder blades stay on the ground. Or you can slide your hands down the strap and let your elbows rest on the ground. It's totally up to you. If you've really got easy access to that left leg, then you don't need the strap. But I find that I like to use the strap here because I can be more honest with keeping the back of my right leg line on the ground because that's still active. I'm not just letting it hang there. I'm working the back of the right knee into the ground, extending through the heel if I use the strap. Take about 5 more rounds of breath. Notice where you are. Can you sense that you've opened space in either the back of the left thigh or the top of the right in this practice today? And if you can't sense it now, maybe tomorrow morning when you wake up, you'll know you did something. That's usually the way it works with my practices. I haven't done this pose in a while. And then the next day I say, oh, I need to do this pose more often. This is one of those poses, I think. When you're ready to come out, maybe slide that right leg back first, bend the left knee. Take the strap off. We're going to just do a nice easy windshield wiper in between, feet to the floor. Exhale, let your knees fall to one side. Inhale back to center. Exhale to the other side. Wiping and swiping back and forth. And then coming back to the center, both feet on the ground. Pause for a moment. Draw your right leg into your body, so you're still using the muscles first to draw it in. Strap goes around the heel. Push the heel into the strap to feel the front of the thigh engage. Extend that leg out. And then start to use your arms to bring the whole leg line towards you, pushing the heel away from you. You can also push the back of the right hip into the ground a little bit, so lengthen from both the heel and the hip. Maybe don't go fully into your right leg yet, so give a little leeway so that you can extend that left leg, pressing through the left heel, working the back of the left leg line to the ground, opening up the top of the thigh. And if the Krounchasana didn't work for you, this is really a very similar stretch, right? Top of the one thigh, back of the other thigh. The difference being that you don't have a bent knee, so it might be more comfortable for you, for your knee joint. So this is a great prep pose. And a good ending pose. See what you've accomplished. Not only physically, but remembering what we've said to ourselves along the way is just as important. Take about 3 to 5 more breaths. And then coming out of that posture, bend a knee, bend the other knee, feet to the floor. Anything final that you'd enjoy. If you want to hug your knees in, just make circles. Sometimes I find after doing those deep knee bends, like a soft bicycle movement feels really good on the joints. You can move your ankles, your knees, and your hips. So if you want to join me in that, just mobility for the sake of mobility. Also get your legs up overhead. Or if you're ready to flop into Shavasana, final relaxation, let those legs go out long. Maybe put your blanket on top of you or underneath your knees. If your legs are extended and you want a softer approach to the thighs and the low back, you can roll the blanket up, put it underneath your knees. You deserve Shavasana though. Don't underlook the importance of that pose. We always say that, but it's true. Moment of quiet and gratitude for your body. And I find it interesting. I remember the first time that I found Krounchasana meant Heron Pose, means heron. I thought, how interesting, because we have herons on the lake where I live, and I know that they're really funky looking because they have these huge bodies and grand wingspans and these tiny, tiny little legs that you can't quite figure out how those legs will hold them up. And here's this pose that we do where the legs are all powerful. They provide us with so much stability and grounding. And take a moment to feel your legs, the stability of your bones. Let your muscles just relax onto the bones. Send your breath into your thighs. And let your wings just relax. The wings of the heart, your arms. Shoulder blades resting into the ground. The weight of the head. So I think learning this pose can be a lot like watching the heron. We might feel very awkward. There's a lot of poses that can leave us feeling awkward. That's okay. I think that's part of yoga, is knowing that we don't have to strive for perfection. We don't have to look perfect. But just having gratitude for the stability that you do find in your practice, not just physically, but in your mind, your emotions. How can this practice help you throughout the day today and the rest of the week? How can it help to keep your emotional body stable? An at-home practice invites you to stay in this position of relaxation for as long as you'd like. Or if you're ready to come out, feel free to roll to your side first, or maybe take a big full body stretch. It's the new year. Each practice is like a new year for our body and mind as we come out of Shavasana. Opportunity to leave behind on the mat, roll up whatever it is we don't want. Know that it'll disappear next time we take our mat out. If only we could do that with our life so simply, but there might be some things you can let go. And if you're coming out and you want to come into a final seated position with me, please do. I'll take my hands to my heart. Thank you for practicing with me today. Peace, joy, love and light. Namaste.